Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again on our YouTube channel. This is Workshop Quick Takes. Today we're continuing on fuel injectors. Last time in part 1 with our Jeep Cherokee XJ and the 4.0 engine, we looked at the process from a beginner's point of view. How do you refurbish the injectors by replacing the O-rings, cleaning up carbon deposits that are stuck down in there, and getting the connectors resecured after lots of clips and other things have started to break off of them. Today we're going to move a little bit faster through the process, and this time we are replacing those plug connectors with new ones. We're going to re-terminate directly to the harness. There are pigtailed versions also available. And also, we're going to do the 4-hole injector upgrade. The stock injectors have a single discharge port to atomize the fuel. The 4-hole upgrade is pretty easy. There are lots of junkyard injectors out there that can do the job. You either need to refurbish them yourselves or buy them from an outfitter that does it for you, which is the route we went. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, we'll talk about that along the way, but the fact is there are upgrades possible for this engine because Chrysler at this point in history was not investing in it more than they had to. They only had a few years left on it before they had to change out anyway. So let's step outside, pop up that hood again, and take a look. Okay, now that we've shown how to do it the cheap way, we can talk about the upgrade way. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way if that keeps your vehicle going. Just replace injectors when they are absolutely no more good, like somebody did with one of those that we found. And new O-rings from a kit, tie down your connectors somehow so that they don't just pop loose. However, looking down here, you can see that these connectors have had better days. And it turns out that these are replaceable. There's a couple of ways to do that. This here is a Bosch EV series connector, which is what the later XJs use. It's an EV style injector. I think they have Mopar part numbers on them. I don't know if they're actually Bosch or not, but of course Chrysler was in a relationship with Daimler at this point in its history. And unlike these, which had the locking clip, these here simply have a press to release. And you can see that thing going right there. Or you can buy a terminal kit. Which one of these makes the most sense to you depends on what condition your wiring is in. If your wires have cracked insulation or if you're getting injector error codes when you move the harness around, then there's probably broken wires back up in there, and you really do need the pigtail kit. You're going to have to tie these in with weather sealed bus splice connectors farther back up the harness. But if yours are still in decent enough condition like this to where you could just lop them off at the edge of the connector, then you have the option to do a direct termination, and that avoids having the 2 extra crimps of the splice. The most ideal wire is point to point whenever possible. So looking at the tray here, I have this very convenient large sand tile that I bought at Home Depot many years ago. But since it would be very tragic if all these pieces went down in the engine and I would never get half of them back, I've also got this nice little silicone tray from Harbor Freight that I'm going to use to sort things while I'm working. I will definitely need this crimp tool. This is here actually has the specialized die for the terminals, and we went through this one in detail in a previous video series we did on wiring methods and techniques. And then I have this if I need it, but I'll probably be trying to use this as a wire stripper because it's pretty decent quality. Now the main thing to pay attention to down here is the wire color coding, and it looks to me like every single one of these has a green-red return wire back to the PCM located towards the front. So in order to do these correctly, I need to figure out which way this connector actually goes on here and clips, and I believe it's going to be this direction, and then make sure that my return wire is always terminated on this side. Sometimes it helps to put just a little bit of lubrication. In this case, I'm going to use a tiny amount of dielectric grease. Alright, next step, we want to strip it back just far enough to go into there, but make sure that these tabs out here on the edge are in fact wrapping around insulation. If I need to trim it up a little more, then I can use this. Make sure I don't nick any of the wires. Okay, and then these actually go in backwards like this. So we're just holding like that. And the wire, I can see it in there, which means ready to crimp. There it is, just like OE. Slowly but carefully Feed this in until I can just see the copper popping through over there. And that's 2, factory fresh. Last of all, I know my connector goes on this way, and I know the green needs to be on this side. And looking in there, I can see the little catch tab must be, I'm pretty sure this goes in this way. So green, red over here. And it clicked, so yeah, I was right. Okay, so that there is the proper alignment. Two in, and last of all, push the weather seals back in. They're going to take a little longer than I was hoping if they all go like this. It's okay though. And that is a completed connection. Before sealing that back up though, let's go ahead and just put this on it. One down, 5 to go. Whereas they're still holding, but they're not in great shape. And again, green with red is still the close one. Well, so far we're in luck. The wire is fairly flexible, except right here above the connector itself where it baked out. Hard to see, but looking down the barrel of that there's a tab that's sticking out on this side, and that tab is actually catching on this. So that's how it actually locks in. Just make sure that little red thing is snapped down in there. This might actually go in a little bit more cooperatively with a little more grease. There we go. Actually, let's go ahead and just plug that one back in. And then focus on this. Yep, grease did it. That's a much better fit than I got on that first one. So that's the process. 2 down, 4 to go. A little bit more awkward to get at as we go farther down the engine, but they all change out the same way. Oh, this is a tricky one. Red and green is still the ground. Green and black is the signal, so you need to make sure you don't get those flipped by mistake. Okay, green red is ground. Goes on this side. Okay, that's 6 injector plugs. Now, one final check is just to make sure that I've got the green and the red on each side forward, just like it was before. It appears that I do. Assuming those are all making continuity and they all look like good crimps, it should start. Okay, clean idle. I smell my exhaust leak, but I don't smell any fuel, so I think we're in good shape. We'll do, a few test runs, and then we'll come back and we'll actually do the injector swap. The 6 injector plugs that we replaced last night survived a hot run without any issues at all, so I think they're all making good electrical conductivity. Now, let's go ahead and switch the injectors, and hopefully we don't have any problems, but if we do, we can be reasonably confident it is the injector and not one of the electrical connections. These here are the injectors we're going to use. Look up close and you can see that that is a 4-hole injector. The difference between a 4-hole and a single hole is, of course, that there is only one spray hole on these that are come in stock, and this one here has 4, which was used on some later Chrysler vehicles, a lot of Fords. I think these get pulled from the junkyard. These came from K Suspension. K Suspension is a Jeep outfitter that pulls those, refurbs them with new O-rings, and then resells them again. Now, why would you do that? Well, first of all, you do need to make sure that if you're swapping injectors, whatever you're swapping to has about the same flow rate. So whatever pulse the PCM is programmed to put on the injector, this needs to put out about the same amount of fuel when it receives a similar length of pulse. In theory, they will atomize the fuel better, resulting in better mixing and a more efficient, cleaner, faster burn. Now to do this job, we have to do it exactly the same way as we did when we refurbished the OE injectors. That's going to mean let's start by getting rid of some of these accessories. Get those out of the way. And then we also need to remove 2 screws here, 3 screws, all 10 mil, I believe. So let's just start by pulling these throttle linkages. And we've got to figure out how to work off this injector wiring support rail without splitting it to bits. That, as I recall, was a bit of a pickle, but need to pull this off. That is the coolant temperature sensor. And then we just start popping our injectors. And again, these first 2 can potentially get confused with each other. But what we do note is that we have a yellow with a green stripe on the first one here. Yellow with, I think, a pink stripe on the second one. So yellow with a green stripe is injector 1. Okay, yes, both of these are push in, then pull, but work them off gently. Things run hot over here and you don't want to be cracking these. Sensor over here, same deal. Push in, pull. And there, same deal, push, then pull. And right down over here, it's a little thing that just attaches onto a screw down there. And finally, just unroute this harness from down there. And that is ready to come loose under the rail right here. One other thing I really could do today is retape this because it looks like I could use some of it. For now, set that off to the side. Been ready to remove the remaining bolts on the injector rail. All right, we're now back to the place where we can pull the fuel rail. Even though it's not a great idea, I'm going to try and do the same thing I did last time and not release this connection here. My fear being that if I do, the O-rings might be loose and then it's going to leak until I do something about that entire hose assembly. So let's go ahead and just try and pop this off and see if we can get the injectors out. Okay, that wasn't so bad, probably because they were just put in with new lubricated rings not that long ago. Next up, we have the 6 clips to remove here that actually release the injectors. So again, these clips release off the back side here, and you don't want to lose them, so just gently pull. That's one. And I definitely smell fuel now, so we're getting close. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just like last time, I'm going to start from the front here, see if I can get this injector out, and hopefully catch any loose fuel that's running around in here. There we go, and there's a little. See if I tilt this upright, if I get a little more out of here. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and an O-ring just popped. Don't want that sitting down there. 6. All right, just to get a look at them there, that's the difference. Single hole in my right hand, 4-hole in my left, and in theory, the same fuel flow. So this one here hopefully provides superior atomization. Still the same connector, same plugs, same O-rings, same length. So should swap right in. Just like last time, I'm going to try using a little WD-40 as an O-ring lubricant. Work it in gently. There we go. And if we did that right, this here should snap on. Oops. It's not wanting to go on. There we go. So that's one. All right, 6 off, 6 on. So now we need to relubricate the manifold side O-rings here and then get it back in. Another point is we've previously cleaned out all these holes of carbon buildup when we did the original injector rebuild. So if you're going straight from your old injectors to your replacement ones, you're still going to need to do that step from earlier in order to get the gunk cleaned out of there. These outer ones have the studs, and the washer goes flat to the rails, except steel hardware into cast aluminum surface, so we'll go with just a little bit of our usual anti-seize. Another reason not to tighten it down right away, make sure everything's going in the way it's supposed to first. Now we got this guy here too. All right, so let's pause and take a look at what's going on with this here. Don't want random pieces of broken plastic eventually dropping down on hot components. And just a bit of this self-adhering silicone tape for good measure. Plasticky, soaked in oil, ready to catch fire at any moment. Rewrapping wiring is one of those jobs. It can look like horrendously intimidating. Why would I want to do that? It's going to take hours to get at it. So instead, just look for opportunities to do it when you have it taken apart for other reasons like we're doing here. So let's go ahead and get this looped back under. And then this one gets fed back down under here. And then that just clips back on there like it was before. And then these should just snap back on very cleanly. And these also go back in their places. One. And this needs to go back onto the head studs. 1, 2, 3. And now we need to start plugging in injectors. And again, yellow with a green stripe. Said earlier is number 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now we bring this back around and over. So, go ahead and tighten this one. All right, that's not good and torqued. And now, last of all, we'll get this one. And that's just good practice anytime you have something that installs lengthwise. Doesn't matter if it's a head, a fuel rail, whatever. Torque the innermost ones first and then the outermost ones last, and that way you don't put any undue pre-stress on it before it starts expanding and contracting when it heats up and cools down. If you had cruise control installed, the actuator would be over there, the cable would be coming over here, attached in there, and then clipping on right there, which is why there's that blank position. This here is normally one continuous piece of plastic, but due to heat, it likes to break here. So I just replaced that with a small piece of hose, and that actually makes it easier to get apart. Don't want to forget our coolant temperature sensor. We'll have a check engine light and a constantly running fan if we do. And then these go to their appointed positions. Okay, this step isn't strictly necessary, but I did get a fair bit of WD-40 and grime kind of back in here. I want that cleaned off before we ever do our first test start here. Danger, extremely flammable. So, don't spray this on anything hot, and don't fire this up until it's had a chance to evaporate. It probably all just flash off pretty quick as everything started to warm up, but I'm just gonna give it a minute, and then we'll come back and check on it. All right, just like when we did the O-ring swap, we're probably going to have to flip the key a few times to do fuel pump primes until we actually get fuel out of the Schrader valve, and then we'll be able to attempt to start. Okay, that's 4 priming attempts, so let's see if we get any fuel out of here. Oh yeah. If all is going well, we should have no fuel weeping down by any injectors. I don't see any yet. All right, should be able to attempt to start now. Some guy over there has an old early 90s Buick, and I don't know if he just doesn't care about the exhaust system or if someone ripped off his cap, but that's pretty spectacular. Anyway, that's another job done. So we've now shown you 3 things you can do with your injector system. One is to refurbish the ones you've already got by putting new O-rings on them, make sure they don't leak or weep. Second thing we've shown you is wiring, replacing the plugs that go on top of the injectors so that you have nice new ones that are secured, and then also cleaning up your harnesses. And the third thing we've then done is we've actually swapped to a better injector. And so far, looks like it's running and ready to go. But we'll keep that available for the next couple of days in case all of a sudden flames start spurting from underneath the hood. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Hopefully you found that presentation helpful and are inspired to go take care of some maintenance or upgrades on your vehicle. Just to reiterate though, a mistake made in the fuel system, either by not maintaining it when you should have, or by attempting maintenance that you're not qualified to do, can lead to a fire. So, handle whatever you're comfortable, work at your own risk, and we'll see you again next time, whenever that is.
Has anyone seen my phone?